What's cracking? It's I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in ages, years even. It's been a while. It's good to see you guys. Well, good for you to see me, I guess. I can't see you. All right, we're a little rusty as you can tell. Let's get into this thing, man. Let's talk about the 49ers versus Chargers preseason game. Oh, we appreciate you. We appreciate you big time. Let's go. Um let's get into it because obviously there's been a lot of conversation this morning today. We got some news not too long ago from Kyle Shanahan, so I figured the rules, you know the vibe. We're going to go through the admin stuff first, talk about some of the injuries that occurred, talk about the plans for the next game, and then we're going to get into it. I love seeing all the peeps. Let's go. We see you guys. It's been a while. Fresh off Tahoe, a little red, a little sunburnt. But let's get into this thing. So let's start with the injuries. Some of the injuries that we've had thus far that came out of that game. I think the most significant injury, at least in my opinion, is Mo Hurst. Mo Hurst had a high ankle sprain. He was having a really good game and playing really, really well. Unfortunately, he goes down with the infamous high ankle sprain, something that 49er fans and all of us know are synonymous together, 49er players and high ankle sprains. So they're anticipating Mo Hurst could be out for a month. This is pretty significant because Mo Hurst was probably going to make this team. He was going to make this roster. He's been flashing all of camp. He's been flashing all of preseason. So it's a big bummer. I was expecting to see a lot from Mo Hurst in the regular season. I was expecting him to be a big part of this team. So he might actually start the year on IR. The silver lining there is it opens up a roster spot for potentially another talented defensive lineman to step up. As we know, we have a log jam at the interior defensive line position. So unfortunately for Mo Hurst, it's kind of crappy for him, but it's gonna be an opportunity for someone else. So something to keep in mind. Michael Kendricks hurt his toe on the very first play of his 49er career. So not the best start for Michael Kendricks, linebacker that we just signed. He's a veteran. He has turf toe. He'll be likely out for a month. So I imagine he goes on IR, and those might be. So the 49ers have to get down to 80. They're at 85 right now in regards to the roster. They have to get down to 80 by tomorrow, I believe, at 1 p.m. is the deadline. A lot of teams are starting to announce now who they're letting go. But Mo Hurst and Michael Kendricks, if they find themselves on IR, there's 2 roster spots taken care of. Then you're only having to let go of 3 more guys. Kelemete sustained back injury. So the reason why that's of significance is he is the guy who's been elevated to replace Aaron Banks while Aaron Banks is out with the shoulder injury. So Kelemete goes down with the back. So our depth is getting tested on the O-line pretty early. So we'll see what happens there. The O-line should go back to normal here once the Raiders come back around next week. Alexander Myers, I believe is how you say his name, Myers. He has a concussion. He was a cornerback that we signed late into camp. He's someone who's actually been flashing for me. He flashed for me in the preseason game against the Chiefs. And then in this game, he had 2 back-to-back plays where you got to see the traits that he possesses. And part of the reason why I liked him as a DB for the 49ers was Alexander he showed some flashes, and he showed it twice in 2 weeks. So it's unfortunate that he goes down with a concussion, but he could be potentially back next week. we'll see. He's a guy that I don't really anticipate making the roster anyway, so he could be a cut candidate coming up. Also, someone that I like for a practice squad stash as well. Some other news. All of these starters will be playing against the Raiders in the final preseason game. That's pretty big news considering Alex Mack, Trent Williams, they haven't taken the field yet this year in regards to preseason. So it'll be nice to get the starting offensive line out there together. We haven't seen Mostert. We haven't seen Elijah Mitchell. I'm not sure if that is going to change in that regard. We should be seeing Trey Sermon. Obviously, we've seen all the wide receivers, and there's a very good reason why we've seen all the starting wide receivers. And that has to do with Trey Lance, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll get to see George Kittle. And then, of course, guys like Fred Warner. And hopefully Javon Kinlaw. Hopefully that means Javon Kinlaw will be back as well. Really want to see him in some game time action. So yeah, I think that's pretty much covers a lot of the admin stuff, the administration news stuff, right? So let's get into it. So we're going to do the same thing as we did last week. We're going to start with offense. We are going to go in on offense. We're going to work from the inside out, trenches down back to the quarterback. And I'll let you know everything that I've seen from there. So in regards to the starting offensive line, it's been the same. It's been the same from what we've seen the last, preseason game prior against the Chiefs. We have Jalen Moore at left tackle. We have Lincoln Tomlinson at left guard. We have Jake Brendel at center, Brunskill, right guard, McGlinchey, right tackle. I'll go left to right. So starting off with Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore has been fantastic. If you've seen me on Twitter on my personal page today, I've been doing a lot of O-line stuff. I went back and rewatched the offensive line last night, this morning. I love just going back and watching those plays, watching each player. And if you're doing a true evaluation of the offensive line, you have to watch each player and evaluate each player in a vacuum. So I'm watching the same play 5, 6, 7 times. And so starting with Jalen Moore continues to show so much strength in his pass blocking technique. His kick step, the way he moves, his feet, his hands, and strike leverage when it comes time to engage, Jalen Moore has been doing really nice. He does get beat on the occasional inside counter move. He doesn't get beat around the outside, though, with speed. That's a nice change. Of course, like if you saw last year, some of the issues that we were having with the edges, specifically the right side, we were getting beat around the edge a lot with speed, just pure speed around the edge. Just is really hard for us to create a clean pocket for the quarterbacks. Well, with Jalen Moore, again, being a 5th-round rookie, he's 155th overall pick, being thrust into the starting offensive line at left tackle because Trent Williams, is taking a break. He's not going to push it too hard. Jalen Moore has been fantastic. And again, that's as a 5th-round rookie. We have to put that into context. As a 5th-round rookie, I think Jalen Moore has exceeded expectations up until this point. Again, loving everything I see out of him from a pass protection standpoint. He even had a really nice pancake block. He's been working really well on combo blocks. So for the most part, Jalen Moore has been really good. He's been really good, and he's been playing at a phenomenal level considering he's a rookie. So this trial by fire of him starting at left guard, I really like. Left tackle. I really like it. And I think he's really coming into his own. We got into a kind of a debate on, or not a debate, but some questions were being asked back and forth. Do you think he should be right guard? Is he a top 5 altogether offensive lineman? Should he replace Brunskill? And that's where I started to pump the brakes a little bit. It's like, okay, remember, he's playing very well for a rookie 5th rounder. His pass protection, which is what he was good at Western Michigan, that was his best trait, was pass protection. So you're seeing that translate, and that's good. Sometimes it doesn't translate. So the fact that it's translating, at least from a pass protection standpoint, fantastic. But it's a different world when you go from the tackle and you're on an island on the edge and you go inside. Inside is a combo game. You're working combo blocks with center guard. You're working combo blocks with guard tackle. You're pulling. You're doing all different kinds of things. You're going up against a lot more stout type defenders. So the biggest thing with Jalen Moore, in my opinion, is he still needs to work on run fits, power in the run game. He's not super powerful. One of the reasons why he's really good is because he has really good pass protection technique. You can tell he's a technician. You can tell he takes pride in having correct footwork, hand placement, timing, depth, all of it. Good, great. In the run game, it's a lot more muddy. And I still see him having, an occasional missed block here or there. But I like him on the edge. I like him run blocking on the edge because as a tackle, you're more leverage blocking than having to dig a nose tackle out. It's a big change going from the edge to interior offensive line. So I'm not ready at all to put him at guard. I actually think Jalen Moore needs to stay at tackle at least for this year because as of right now, he sounds like he is our swing tackle. So I would imagine Jalen Moore stays put at tackle. I don't think they put him over at guard. Another conversation we're having on Twitter. If we want to put him at guard, I say we got to do that in 2022. In 2022, we'll think about that. But this year, I need him as my swing tackle. I need him as my Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams insurance right now. That's what I need. And I want him to keep getting reps at tackle. So, but overall, Jalen Moore, thumbs up. Very pleased. He's exceeded expectations, like I said. So left tackle, we love it. We like it. Great. Good job, Jalen. Helmet sticker for Jalen. He's been really good. Laken Tomlinson. Laken Tomlinson is 100% Laken Tomlinson. He's going to make his blocks. He's going to do his assignments. He's going to get some pancakes. He's going to whiff on one or two. But he's consistent. He's just consistent. And that's Laken Tomlinson. Zero concerns with the left guard position. It's really nice just looking at that position and being like, we got it covered. There's nothing to worry about. With center, Jake Brendel, who's now starting his second game at center with the ones, which typically would be Alex Mack's position, right? He has been doing much better, in my opinion. I thought he struggled a bit in camp. I thought he had definite up and downs in camp. He had up and downs in the game as well, but he's at least serviceable. He's serviceable, and that's all you can ask for out of your backups and backup offensive linemen. He's been decent. I got to give him his props. There was like one play, for example, he had to turn out the nose tackle. He had an outside shade. He got really good positioning, and he got in between. Like he got exactly where he needed to be, and he did his job. It was just the D tackle said, "Get out of my way," and he threw him and then made the tackle. So, of course, you want to see the center finish the block, stay engaged, not get tossed, make the block all the way through. So that's just kind of I think what Jake Brendel is. He's going to be able to put himself in position to make the blocks. He might not make every one. He might, he's a guy, I feel like. But he did his job for the most part over 2 starts with the ones. So I can't be mad at it at all. In fact, I feel more confident about him. I felt less confident in camp. I really did, but I feel more confident about him now. If we go to Brunskill, I think is just kind of this. It's a narrative. There's a narrative that, Brunskill struggled at center last year because it was a new position. He was playing out of position. Center is a very difficult job, especially in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So the fact that he's now back at right guard, I think he's doing very well. Over the last 2 games he's played, he's only had one miscue. And the miscue was the Chris Jones sack, which again, we understand. He stepped on Trey Sermon's foot. So again, I give that an asterisk. I give it an asterisk because he wasn't able to anchor. He wasn't able to plant. So that play could have turned out much differently than what it looked like. But for the most part, I've watched Brunskill very specifically based on the conversation and narratives around him. So when it comes to Brunskill, I think he's doing really nice. I think he's doing a good job. Again, Brunskill, you have to understand the traits. You have to understand his traits. He's not a power guy. Again, not a power guy playing on the interior. You look at the difference between Lincoln Tomlinson and Dan Brunskill. Lincoln Tomlinson is a power guy. He will dig you out. He'll plant you on your back. He's very powerful. Lincoln is very, very powerful. Whereas you look at Dan Brunskill is not that type. He's not that. That's not his skill set. His skill set is winning with technique and winning with speed and foot quickness, burst, and just knowing his assignments. He's consistent. And again, with offensive linemen, you need to be consistent more than anything else. And so with Brunskill, he consistently wins. He consistently does his job. And then we're going to get the 1 or 2 occasional plays where he gets blown up, kind of maybe misses a block here or there. But for the most part, when it comes to like 98% of the snaps, I think Daniel Brunskill is going to do his job. It's just, we understand what comes along with the territory. You're going to get beat as an offensive lineman. It's going to happen. So, but for the most part, I watched Brunskill tough. He made every play and assignment that was asked of him yesterday. He got beat once. On some A-gap pressure. He had a nose tackle or D tackle head up on him, beat him to the inside. Shout out Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman with a beautiful step up into the pocket to be there to help Brunskill. And he chipped the guy, allowed Brunskill to retake over the block. It was a really good rep by Gallman. But that was the only thing that I saw from Brunskill yesterday that would have been something that needed to be critiqued. So other than that, fantastic. And then right tackle. Let's talk about right tackle. Really, really happy with Mike McGlinchey. I really am. He's someone that I watched a ton at training camp, focused a ton on at training camp, and have been watching. Of course, I'm an offensive line guy, so I watch the offensive line after every game. And I watch them specifically as a unit. Mike McGlinchey is someone I'm always very interested in and what he does and how he's doing it. Because you see in training camp, you've seen it. You see reps where his technique looks polished. He's figured it out. He's doing what he's supposed to do and he wins. But then you also see other opportunities where his technique isn't so hot, where his feet are a little bit jumbled, where he's not getting the correct depth. He's not getting leverage. He doesn't anchor. So you're seeing both sides of it. But the difference from last year is you weren't seeing a ton of that technique. You were seeing a lot of issues with the technique. One of the biggest things with Mike McGlinchey is he brings his feet together. And that's a death wish as an offensive lineman, because if the defender keys on that on tape and you watch long enough on tape, you can start to time when McGlinchey's going to bring his feet together. So that's what was happening last year. McGlinchey was bringing his feet together, and right when that was happening, the defensive ends were striking him. So as a result, he was off balance, and then it made his reps look horrendous, for lack of a better word, just because you're off balance. So what I'm seeing and how that has changed and evolved from last year is I can tell how much he is trying to keep his feet apart. He is doing it like it is a concerted effort for him to keep his feet apart, and it's working. It is working for him. When it doesn't work, we're going to come back on. We can watch this stuff all throughout the year. When he's going to get beat, it's going to get beat because he stops his feet. We're going to talk about this all year. When he gets beat, it's going to be because he stops his feet. It's happened in this preseason, but the thing is it's happening less often, which again is just speaking towards him correcting his technique and that making it essentially making that what his game is about. And another example of what he's been working on, he has had a hard time anchoring. And so for an offensive lineman, it's a really hard job because you're supposed to stop these freight trains of man meat coming and running full speed at you and throwing karate chops at you while you're moving backwards, and then you're supposed to stop them in their place. It's really hard. So one of the things that you have to do as an offensive lineman is you have to learn how to anchor. So anchoring is essentially changing your leverage of your hips and your feet to allow you to basically, instead of being standing straight up, if you have leverage, it's harder to push on something when there's leverage. So one of the things that Mike did really, really damn good was anchor. And it was like an over exaggeration of anchoring. And I loved every second of it. I loved every second of it because he was getting a bull rush on him and he dropped the hips, he kicked the feet back, he anchored, and he stopped the bull rush. He stopped the bull rush. We've seen instances in the past where that maybe didn't happen. And the bull rusher would get the best of it because, again, 6'8", 6'9", you're actually at a disadvantage being on the offensive line at that height because it's a leverage game. It's about low man wins. So you're already the highest man. So you have to be able to win and figure out to redistribute your leverage. So the fact that we saw Mike anchor and then also go like out of his way to anchor, like it was like he did 2 over like dramatic anchors. I loved it. I loved every single minute of it. Please tell Jimmy to stop throwing alley oops. You guys are wild. What's up, Ego? Miss you, boy. So that's the thing. We're seeing the steps being taken in the right direction. Mike McGlinchey is not perfect yet. He is not perfect yet. We're not going to say that he is, but we are seeing him make the corrections and do the things that he needs to do technically to be successful. So that's the biggest thing. Sean said, so you think he's a little bit too high? He has improved a lot with the little things. I like what he is doing. That's one of his biggest issues since day one in pass protection. He's too high in his stance. One of the things that you have to learn when you're pass setting and you're pass blocking is you have to drop your hips. You have to sink into your stance. You know, if anyone who's ever done a squat, you know, and you do a full squat and you just really get down into that squat, you get deep and you feel those hip flexors and you feel it all kind of burning, all that kind of stuff. That's what you need to be feeling as an offensive lineman. You need to be deep into your stance, especially being 6'8". It's just how it works. So what I like about that is he's doing that. He's doing that. He's getting more better depth on top of finding better leverage. So I'm loving it. And Mike is still Mike in the run game. Mike is still Mike in the run game. He's still mauling. He was feisty. He got a couple pancakes. He was driving dudes out the way. Like Mike McGlinchey in the run game is not a problem. Mike McGlinchey in the run game is one of the better run blockers in the NFL. The biggest thing is the drop back passing pass protection game. That's all we need from Mike. Those are the things that we need to see, and we can identify all the issues. The issue is depth. The issue is feet. The issue is timing. He's still working on timing. So now here's the next part of it. So as your pass setting, what he's getting good at is getting out. He's exploding out of his stance against speed rushers much better than he has in the past. He did that against D Ford in practice quite a bit. You heard about what D Ford did to the Chargers defensive line down there in joint practices. So D Ford is not a slouch and has been getting Mike McGlinchey a lot of really good work. But one of the things that I want to keep seeing Mike work on is the counter moves. So again, being able to explode out, be able to get quick out of your stance, get deep into your depth, nice strong base, and you're ready. Your feet are moving, you don't stop. Because one of the things that I've noticed from Mike is that when he explodes out of a stance really fast, he kind of stops because he's worried about the inside counter move. And so when you're worried about the inside counter move, you could get a little diced up. So that's the only thing that I want to see out of Mike, just to keep working on the technique, is being able to stay extremely fluid, moving front to back in your pass set stance with depth, with leverage, so you can counter outside speed and you can counter inside speed. That's all I want. So but like I said, he's taking those steps and he's becoming more and more consistent at it. So I'm happy. I'm happy. Again, he's not a finished product. Mike McGlinchey is not a finished product. You can see him working through his technique. You can see it. You can see him do really freaking fantastic on one play. And then you see another one where he gets a little mixed up. His feet aren't like working at the same pace. It gets a little mixed up, but he's not getting, we haven't seen him get beat like we had last year. And so he's been doing really great. Really happy with Mike and everything he's doing from a technical standpoint. From a technical standpoint, he's doing a lot better, which then translates into better pass blocking. Other than that, I don't want to get too much deeper into any of the other backups. I didn't study the backups as intently. I kind of know who they are at this point. You got Compton at right tackle. You had McKivitz at right guard. You had, I think, Brendel stayed with the second group as well. Then at left guard, you had Kilamete. And then left tackle, who was at left tackle? I think it was Jalen. Jalen played the whole game. Fantastic game. Oh, Don Burr stirring things up per usual. We see you, Don. Welcome, Don. Don's always having some fun in the chats. All right. So from an offensive lineman standpoint, we had the fumble on the center quarterback exchange between Feld and Lee. I went back and watched it. Just timing. It's just a timing issue. There's a perfect reason why I used to go out with my quarterback 15 minutes before practice every single day, and all we did was work on snaps. It's a timing thing. You got to get used to it. Got to rep it. And it changes for every quarterback. It really changes for every quarterback. So that could just be a situation of them not getting a ton of reps together. It's not a big deal in my opinion. Sean said he had high hopes for McKivitz when he came out. Yeah, McKivitz has been, I would say, as like middle of the pack as they come. He shows good ability at times, but then he shows ability where his balance, it just feels like it's off. Like it just feels like he hits a guy and he slides right off, and I don't know. I feel like there's something with his balance. He has his moments. He has his moments where he looks really good, and then he has his moments where you're like, oof. So McKivitz has been up and down. I don't think he's been playing better than Brunskill for sure. So I think McKivitz is definitely going to kind of stick there on the second. I think McKivitz has a good opportunity to make the team, though. I do. I think he has a good opportunity to make the team. I think I would say he's the third or fourth string guard right now. I see someone asking about Banks. Banks is hurt. So he'll be out for another week or so. So, and it's just tough. Banks needed a little bit more seasoning. He needed some reps. It would have been great to see Banks in this game. It really would have. Just to get the reps, get the experience, because he's likely not going to get that in the regular season. So that's the only unfortunate. It's the only unfortunate thing. All right, so that's offensive line. Damn, did I really just spend 30 minutes on offensive line? Sheesh. See, you guys, can you tell I like the offensive line? I can spend 30 minutes on the offensive line. I'll try and speed it up here. Let's just do I'll do it this way. Running backs. We'll go into running backs. JaMycal Hasty is fighting for a roster. Real quick, Rohan, we talked about that a little bit. Moore probably could play guard, but I think he's best suited to play tackle. And with all the injuries that we have to like our backup tackles and everything, I would really want to keep Jalen Moore at tackle. Just keep him there. Keep getting him the experience at tackle. That's what I want. I don't want him. He's a better pass protector than he is run blocker. So I'd much rather keep him at his strong suit, which is pass protection, rather than moving him into the interior where those skill sets don't translate as well. So with that being said, keep him at left tackle. I don't want him anywhere in the interior for this year. I talked about it on Twitter in 2020 or 2022. We want to move him to guard. I will think about it. But this year, nope. Keep him at tackle. That's all I want. Keep him at tackle. Running backs. JaMycal Hasty and Gallman were our only running backs available against the Chargers. JaMycal Hasty looks freaking good, man. JaMycal Hasty looks nice. He looks really good. He looks good. He does. Gallman shows flashes. Gallman showed, I already talked about it on the offensive line part. He had a really good pass blocking rep. Actually saved Brunskill's behind by coming up into the A gap and helping with kind of interior pressure right off the jump. Really good rep by Gallman. Gallman had some good runs as well. It just feels like there's an inconsistency factor with Gallman. I don't know what it is. He had that one drop, I remember, where Lance hit him out in the flat. I don't know. There's just like this weird like consistency thing with Gallman. I feel like he has the ability. I feel like he can do a lot of things really well. Just feels like there's an issue with being consistent at all of those things. I don't know. I still think he's good though. Still think Gallman is pretty talented for what he is. But Hasty looks nice, man. His one cut ability is dangerous. Hasty, Don, you're crazy, man. Hasty's one cut ability I really like. I like it a lot. His toughness, he's really good toughness. Good vision too. Really good vision. Another example, I was breaking down offensive line play. I believe it was a trap right. So trap right, you have left guard pulling right. You have your right guard, right tackle, tight end, all blocking down. So they're all blocking down. They leave the exposed, I think it is Will Backer, so that the pulling guard can go and get him. So this is an example of Hasty's ability to read offensive linemen in very short windows and being able to do things in a very short window. So typically when you have a trap, you want the defender to run up the field. You want him to take himself out of the play. If a defender that you're trapping just runs up the field, you won. Great. Perfect. He took himself out of the play. What becomes difficult is when they hold the line of scrimmage or they sit in the hole, because that changes the technique for the offensive lineman and how he needs to block that up. And that also changes the running back and how the running back reads the block, because the running back is reading Lincoln. He's not necessarily reading the hole. He's reading Lincoln. So in that situation, the will linebacker squats in the hole, just sat there, just sat in the hole and said, dig me out. So what Lincoln did is when that occurs, you have to get your head on the outside shoulder and then turn the defender back into the hole. So you're essentially creating a bounce out lane for the running back. So that's exactly what happened. Lincoln pulls, like you're typically pulling on a straight line and you want to kick him out east-west. But when they sit in the hole, you can't do that. You have to dig them out. So rather than pushing and trapping them east-west, Lakin has to, again, change where he's placing his helmet, puts it on the outside shoulder rather than the inside, because you're placing it on inside if you're trying to push out. So he puts it on the outside and turns. So he puts his head on the outside and turns the defender so that Hasty then reads it. He's running in the hole where Lincoln just turned the defender. And right as Lincoln's turning the defender, Hasty hit this spin move and spun off of Lincoln's back. I was like, Hasty. Again, because it speaks to his ability to read blocks. He's not reading a hole. He's not reading a gap necessarily. He's reading what his trapping guard is doing. So he read that the will squatted. So that meant the guard needed to I forget the term that we used to use for it. I forget the exact term that we used to use for it, but essentially Lincoln turned him. Hasty read it like in real time at the line of scrimmage and did a spin off of Lincoln's back and ran off the shoulder that he was turning to. It was like a 3-4 yard gain. It wasn't anything crazy. But you look at just you understanding what is going on in that mess called the trenches and seeing one, Lincoln read it right to get his block on point, and then the running back to match the read in like a split second. I was impressed. So that was just one example. But Hasty, I think he's fighting, man. He's scrapping and he's clawing to make this roster, and he's making a strong case. Hasty is making a strong case. So we'll see. I think it's really between Hasty and Gallman. I have a tinfoil hat theory. The tinfoil hat theory is like we've kind of seen what's been going on with all the starters being held out. You know, Juwan Jennings had a heel, right? I don't think he had a heel. Even Kiana Martin said on her live, she said, oh, neither Trey Sermon or Juwan Jennings' injuries were serious. They weren't. It was precautionary. So Elijah Mitchell hasn't played. Again, tinfoil hat theory. Tinfoil hat theory. Elijah Mitchell hasn't played all preseason. We've seen him in camp. We've seen how good he is in camp. He's unguardable out of the backfield when it comes to putting linebackers or safeties on him. He's a good player. He's a good player. So I think the 49ers understand that they're going to, again, cut another good running back. We've talked about it all offseason. One of these running backs that's getting cut is going in division. He's going in division. So whether Gallman gets cut, whether Mitchell gets cut, whether Hasty gets cut, guess where they're going to play? They're going to play up north at Seattle or down south with the Rams or over there in AZ in the desert. So I kind of feel like they're hiding Mitchell. Because, again, 6th-round pick. If you haven't seen him in preseason, are you really going to bring him? Like, are you really going to bring him onto another team's final 53? I don't think so. So if Elijah Mitchell doesn't play all preseason and then gets cut and then gets brought back to the practice squad and then becomes a protected practice squad player, the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they scheme the system. And we know Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are schemers to the nth degree. So that's my tinfoil hat theory. I think they're trying to stash. They're trying to do certain things with certain positions because they're stacked at certain there's a logjam at certain position groups, and they know they're going to be cutting people that are going to go somewhere else. And guess where they don't want them to go? They don't want them to go in division. So if you make it work, and they're smoke and mirrors masters. So got to remember that. Other than that, like I said, we talked about Gallman, we talked about Hasty, pretty good. Okay, we got through running backs in 10 minutes. Jeez, I suck at this. I suck at talking fast and doing this fast. Tight ends. Talk about tight ends really quick. Charlie Warner. I like him. Barely used in training camp. They really didn't, at least from my eyes that I saw. Maybe I missed it. I know he wasn't catching passes in training camp. I know he's not catching a ton of passes in preseason either. But what is becoming more noticeable, Charlie Warner, is his impact in the blocking game. Charlie Warner, as a blocker on the edge, he's doing a great job. He's doing a fantastic job, and he needs some credit for it. And so now I'm kind of thinking, like, who we have a log jam at tight end. You got George Kittle, Ross Dwelly, absolute locks. They're making it. And after that, we got to figure out who's that third tight end going to be. Are they going to keep 4 tight ends? But as of right now, we know Michael Pruitt. We got to see him for the first time. He really didn't do anything yesterday other than block. But Michael Pruitt, he's got, I think, almost $1 million guaranteed on his contract. He's going to be someone that, I mean, it's a lot of money. John Lynch said it himself. Players don't care what we say. They care who we pay. Guess what? Michael Pruitt was one of the ones that got paid. So he's got some money in the bank that if the 49ers decide to release him, they don't get back. It's guaranteed money. So that's going to be interesting. Is who's going to be this third tight end? Is it Michael Pruitt? Is it Warner? Is it Matthews? I'm going to go ahead and say Matthews is not going to make it. I'm just going to say that because of blocking. I don't think he's there as a blocker. I think he's a perfect practice squad guy. Keep him on the practice squad, bring him up and down if you need to. But he just doesn't bring the ability in the run game that I need, especially that Kyle needs. So I would say Warner gets the bump over Matthews. I would put Warner over Michael Pruitt right now, but just that's because I haven't seen enough of Pruitt. I think Pruitt was hurt all at camp. Didn't see him participate once in camp. And then he comes out. This is the first time we've seen him. We didn't see him against the Chiefs. So I don't know. I would pick Warner personally. I would personally pick Warner even over Pruitt with how much money he's making. Keep 3 tight ends. I like him. I like him as a blocker. Again, I'll never forget my Charlie Warner story. I was looking at the far field about 150, 200 yards away, and it's when all the players are walking out to practice, and this particular player has his shirt rolled all the way up, and I could see the 6-pack from like 200 yards away. I'm like, is that Bosa? I'm like, because there's only one other guy on the team with a freaking 6-pack like that, and I was like, that's got to be Bosa. And we were looking again, and we're like, oh no, that's Warner. that's a Warner 6-pack. Random ass story, but there it is. He's built like a tank, surprisingly, even though he's a little bit undersized. He's a strong guy. Wide receivers. Let's go wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk struggled. I think he had 2 drops. He had the big drop from Jimmy Garoppolo. So let's talk about that pass, right? So we'll get into quarterback, wide receiver. We'll just do it. We'll just get in quarterback, wide receiver. We'll do it all. Again, this is the point of the show where you do whatever you need to do to get ready, grab a drink, relax, do whatever. We're about to talk quarterbacks. We're going to talk about it all. Everything you guys want to talk about. Do whatever you need to do to get ready. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do quarterbacks. I'm going to do wide receivers together. They're pretty synonymous with one another at this point. So starting with the first drive. So first of all, John, I found it very interesting that John Lynch felt the need to go on the radio station before the game to divulge the rep split. I found that interesting, especially based on how they've been handling this whole narrative around and trying to control it as much as possible. I found it interesting that John Lynch went on the radio before the game to talk about the rep split, meaning it was going to be Jimmy's going to get the starting reps. Then it was going starting series. Then it was going to be 2 reps or 2 series, Trey Lance, and then Jimmy comes back in. Of course, that didn't happen. I know Kyle Shanahan talked a little bit about that. He said, wasn't anticipating Jimmy Garoppolo to go on like a 16-play drive or whatever it was. He wasn't anticipating that, so Jimmy only got the 1 drive. Honestly, with how it ended, I would love to see Jimmy get another drive because they had put together a nice drive. I would say it was one of those prototypical Jimmy Garoppolo drives. Down the field, chewing up clock, chunk yards. We saw a really good run scramble by Jimmy Garoppolo. It was the most confident he's ever looked running. I don't know. Maybe hanging out with Trey Lance will do that to you. But he looked really good. Escaping the pocket, flushing up through the middle, and getting a first down with his legs. So for the most part, Jimmy was doing Jimmy things. And then the pass to Ayuk was the big one. So I'll say this. Because I've watched so much of training camp practice and what I've seen thus far, Ayuk has had to make a living during training camp making catches on high balls. Trey Lance throws high. Jimmy throws typically behind. So our wide receivers they've been used to that. They're used to that at this point. So I've seen Brandon Ayuk make that catch a lot of times. I've seen him make it a lot of times. So although it was a high pass by quarterback standards, by pro NFL quarterback standards. That is not an accurate pass. It is not, especially for a veteran, 29 years old. It's not an accurate pass. For a slant in-breaking route across the middle with no immediate pressure in front of Ayuk, you got to throw that thing in front and, if anything, low. You don't want to throw high because if you're throwing high, you're essentially asking for your wide receiver's ribs to get broken. Something that we don't want. So I went back and watched it a bunch of times and slowed it down. I stopped it. I'm trying to see how high it is at its highest point, and was that an issue with timing of Ayuk and gathering his feet to go up and get it? Was it just too high? I think it was truly a combination of both. But at the same time, again, when you're evaluating a quarterback who's been in the league for many years at this point and has all the accolades that he has and all that kind of stuff, you need Jimmy to hit that pass. You do. And it's been a consistent thing with Jimmy throughout camp is ball placement. Started out kind of shaky with ball placement in camp, wrapped up much better at camp with ball placement. But we're still kind of seeing it. We're still kind of seeing the inconsistencies from the ball placement. So the thing with that is it just becomes tough because you see the same thing out of Trey. Trey misses high. You could argue the pass to Deebo Samuel was high. You could argue the pass to Sanu was a little high. That comes with the territory. He's changing his mechanics. He's been changing his mechanics for the better part of a year since October when he started his pre-draft process. He's been working on his mechanics for a while. So his mechanics, you're going to see it. They're going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. But when you notice he starts to get into a flow and he starts to get in the flow of the game, I think everything settles down and he starts to play. In those early couple series, it looks like he's pressing a little bit too much, thinking a little bit too much, doing all that kind of stuff. And the ball tends to go in weird places with Trey Lance sometimes. But when Trey Lance calms down, Trey Lance is on the money. Trey Lance was balling at the end, but sticking with Jimmy Garoppolo, and he had a decent drive, good drive, nothing was wrong. I still feel like the pass was catchable. It was a catchable pass. Ayuk could have came down with it. But again, if we are going to hold Jimmy Garoppolo to the standard of a quarterback who led a team to a Super Bowl, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, a veteran, all those kinds of things, you got to get that ball down. You have to get that ball down, especially on one of your money throws. That's one of Jimmy's money throws. Jimmy has been money over the middle on in-breaking routes. That's what he does well. It's what he does good. So you don't want to see him missing those. I would mark that as a miss. Again, based on the context of Jimmy and who he is and where he's been and what he's done, that is not where you need to put the ball. So, unfortunately, that turned into a pick. Again, I still feel like it was catchable by Ayuk. It was a combination. Ayuk should have caught that, but it was still a high pass. Should have been an easier catch. Should have been a lot easier to catch. So, and that was it. We saw the last of Jimmy at that point. Like I said, I really wish he got another series. I really do. Because we need to see. We need more. We need to see him get in a rhythm. Good or bad. We just need to see it. Because we know this is a competition, and the fact that the Kyle continuously plays these games as if it's not, it's starting to, I think, take a toll on a lot of people. It's taking a toll on this fan base, I know for a fact, but I can't imagine how they're thinking inside that building. And hearing what they hear, unless there's just different language and different tones being used inside the building, it's blatantly obvious what's going on outside the building, at least from our perspective. So it's just getting kind of old at this point. I'm kind of just waiting. I'm just waiting. Like you guys know what I feel. So I'm just waiting. And then Trey Lance comes in. Again, like I said, little shaky, little up and down to start. Was really not a good start. You could tell like he was rattled. He was in his head, and that was translating to inaccurate passes. Just not a good rhythm. There's just not a lot of good stuff going on in those first two drives. And of course, he throws the ball from Deebo I would say it was catchable ball. You go back and you watch it, and if Debo's running this way, you want the ball here, right? You're running this way, you want to catch it here. Boom. The ball was here. Again, not ideal by veteran standards, by one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, making millions of dollars. I expect the ball to be here every time. But for a rookie, it's here, maybe a little high. It's a process. It's a process. But at the same time, Debo still should have caught that. So it is what it is. And I'm not going to lie. I'll say it right now. I don't like Debo's body language. I don't like Debo's body language all of training camp. And I continue to not like it. I don't like that he went off the sideline and went to Jimmy and looked like he was talking crap to Jimmy Garoppolo, like about the pat. Like that's what it looked like. That's what the optics were. The optics based on where the camera angle was and how it looked, and based on the throw, you knew it was a throw that was behind. You knew it wasn't an optimal throw in regards to ball placement. But again, it was still catchable. And Debo got his hands on it. And if you're an NFL wide receiver, you better come down with that freaking ball. And then you better not walk off the sideline and start talking a bunch of crap is what it felt like. So wasn't the biggest fan of that. Again, I've talked about it on these lives for quite some time. Debo has had body language issues all training camp. And it's mostly surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo. It's mostly surrounding missed passes from Jimmy Garoppolo. So it was just funny to see Debo. Like I said, we don't know what was said. I don't know what was said. I just know the context. I just know it was a context of Trey not throwing the best ball. It's still catchable. Of course, probably Debo didn't catch it and ended a drive. And then you see Debo like talking to Jimmy like, well, like not a fan. Not a fan, dude. Not a fan. Not a fan of that. Like I said, he's been doing it the opposite way all training camp. Every time Jimmy missed a throw, he's throwing his hands up in the air. He's pissed. Like you could tell. So it's just like, I don't like that. I don't like that stuff. Especially when you could have caught it. Catch the ball. Catch the ball. How about that? Let's see what other stuff happened. And then, of course, it was the Sanu one that was a interception. That was a catchable pass, in my opinion. It was hard. Again, we've talked about this at nauseum, is that Trey throws a very fast ball. It's a hard ball, and you better be ready to catch it. And I just feel like with that one to Sanu, he's just a little late to it. Just a little late getting, again, it's a fastball. You have to adjust to the way Trey throws. I think Sanu could have caught it, but unfortunately, I think the ball placement was fine. It was just hard and went through Sanu's hands. Turned into INT. Yeah, so after those first two drives from Trey Lance, I will admit, I was like, oh, goodness. Because, again, we're stacking, right? We're stacking consistency. We're stacking plays. Who's the most consistent? Well, the last we saw of Trey Lance against the Chiefs, he was rattled. He seemed rattled against the Chiefs once we saw the second string O-line come in, some of the second string skill players come in. We saw Trey go from comfortable to uncomfortable. Now, and then what we saw yesterday was him start out uncomfortable. So it kind of felt like it followed him. It followed him from that Chiefs game over into this game. Just wasn't the best. Wasn't the best. And I forgot my point. What was I talking about? Trey Lance, blah blah blah. What was I talking about? I hate when I do this. Anyways, Trey Lance. I had it. I lost it. I had it again. I lost it again. Squirrel. I think what I was talking about was Trey. Oh, I was talking about him settling down. So it felt like it was a carryover from the Chiefs game, right? Felt like it was a carryover from the Chiefs game. Started out sloppy, ended the Chiefs game sloppy. So it felt a little bit like because again, fans were concerned with what they saw with the Chiefs, and then it kind of felt like he started that way. I love that he started that way. I'll be 100% honest, because we talk about it all the time when we're evaluating quarterbacks and how we evaluated quarterbacks all throughout this offseason and everything. The intangible is it. The it factor is your brain. You hear people talk about that all the time. What's the it factor? What's the it factor? What does that mean? What is it? How, and you hear people like, oh, we don't know what it is. We don't know how to describe it. We don't know how to do that. Like, the it factor is your brain. That's the psychology that comes along with playing sports. The it factor is how you handle adversity, handle stress, play through mistakes, do all those kinds of things. That's the it factor. And so we got to see that from Trey Lance. We got to see Trey calm down. We got to see him settle in. And once he did that, you saw it. You saw those things you've seen in practice. You saw the ball coming out clean. You saw him being decisive, because remember that first scramble play, it looked like he was trying not to scramble. And guarantee you, Kyle Shanahan told him not to run. Said, don't run. Don't run. Don't do what you do. Don't do what you naturally do. That's a dangerous game as a coach. That's a dangerous game. And I think you saw Kyle have to say, you know what, dude, if you see an opening to run, take it, because you're going to get yourself hurt trying to play behind the line of scrimmage and just continue to throw the ball. We know there's something going on with how they're calling the game, what they're doing with Trey. It's all very strategic. Doesn't necessarily mean it translates into development. I don't think anything Kyle Shanahan is doing is actually helping Trey Lance's development. I think he's actually hurting him a bit, because they're so focused on this persona of Jimmy and this outside optics of what Jimmy are, that they're allowing that to dictate how they develop their own player. And I don't like that. I really, really, really don't like that. I don't. I'll be honest. I'll be 100% honest right now. We're in preseason week 2 is over. I think I went to it's like 10 training camp practices. I think I went to 10 training camp practices, went to the first preseason game. Clearly watched the second one. I'm not the biggest fan of how Kyle's developing Trey. I'm not. Didn't like it in practice. Don't like it now. But there's clearly other things in play. They are trying to accomplish other things off the field, it feels like. But at what point are you going to hinder your 21-year-old franchise quarterback from developing properly because you want to do something else? Like, whatever that is. Whatever you're trying to accomplish. Like, I don't like it. I think Trey's good enough to overcome it. I think Trey is built the right way to withstand it. But if you had a Mitchell Trubisky type, one of those that maybe might not be as mentally fortified to handle it, they would be crumbling right now. Like, it just speaks more to who Trey is and what Trey is about. But I really don't like. I think you're asking what I'm talking about. I don't like how Trey has a specific offense. Trey has a Trey Lance offense. We saw it on the first and second day of pads. It is tons of zone read, tons of QB designed runs. Like, the defense couldn't stop them. They couldn't do anything. There's a Trey Lance offense that you haven't seen. And we only saw it for 2 days. We only saw it for 2 days. It was the first day of pads on Tuesday, the second day of pads on Wednesday when all the media was there. And then after that, it went back to Jimmy Garoppolo's offense and then forcing Trey to run through that kind of Jimmy Garoppolo offense. It's like, why? What are you trying to accomplish? Why aren't you running him with the ones? Why aren't you seeing what he's because they know what he's capable of. They already know. They already know what Trey Lance can do. They know. That's why they're trying to do something else. But again, it doesn't help Trey. So it's a double-edged sword. They're I talked about this before with Kyle. I said we're about this close from it turning on Kyle. He's there. He's there. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out who's going to be starting week 1 based on next week's game. So we've talked about this at nauseum the entire offseason, even before it was Trey. It was like, if they're, again, it was all based on the notion that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starting quarterback. So if Jimmy's going to be the starting quarterback, we always felt that job would really be won in preseason. So I think you're seeing it. I think you're seeing who's playing better, or at least who has a higher upside. They're both playing consistently the same, whether good or bad. But you can see one has a clear upside, like a huge ceiling. And you're seeing him run about 33% of the offense. So, again, I'm waiting. I'm just waiting. I'm being quiet. I'm just waiting. We'll see what happens. I'm just waiting. And we saw yesterday against the Chargers. Trey Lance, he had the one. He had, I think, a one scramble to the left. He had Trent Sherfield kind of angling towards the sideline, and he just delivered. He was, he's a right-handed cornerback running to the left. He had to do the flip the hips, get his shoulders right really quickly while on the move, delivered a dime in stride to Trent Sherfield. It was beautiful, beautiful pass. He had the other deep pass down the right sideline to Trent Sherfield. Really nice. He had another in-breaking route to Trent Sherfield, threw it right on the money. Bang. Trent Sherfield, I've talked about it many times. Trent Sherfield is Trey Lance's favorite target. We saw it for 10 days at camp. Trent Sherfield was 100% Trey Lance's favorite target. The way they talk about each other, the way I now own 6 Trent Sherfields. I'm in 8 dynasty leagues. No, is it 6? Yeah, I own over 6 shares of Trent Sherfield. I'm buying him everywhere I can get because he's going to be nice. He's going to be nice for us. Trent Sherfield is a player. He had that crazy juke too. When he caught that pass on the right sideline, he caught it, saw the safety coming down on him, hit him with the head fake, and completely juked the safety out of shoes, and he fell on the ground. And Trent ran for another 15 yards. It's like this guy's going to be good. They haven't even fully unleashed him yet. When Trey gets unleashed, so when Trey Lance gets unleashed, so will Trent Sherfield. Those two, I feel like, are going to see a lot of success. I think they're going to see a lot of success together. And you're starting to see it. And I think that will only continue. We had the touchdown to Sanu. Again, with what Trey was doing, and when he settled down, everything became extremely decisive. That pass to Sanu, it was an in-breaking route. Trey was able to read that the linebacker wasn't he had bad eyes on the coverage, wasn't playing his responsibility, and just you see the timing it takes for him to make a decision and how quickly the ball gets there. It was pretty awesome. And he just got it there on a dime. And that was the touchdown to Sanu. Also had the touchdown to Travis Benjamin. Another dime. Another rope in between defenders. On the money. Hit him in stride. It's just Trey's a different animal out there, man. Trey's a different animal out there. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So we haven't even seen the full Trey. We haven't even seen full Trey. We're looking at dollar store Trey right now. That's what we're watching. We're watching dollar store Trey operate because he doesn't have, starting offensive line in front of him. He doesn't have starting caliber running backs. He's not getting the plays that fit him and his system. So just wait till you see Gucci Trey. Gucci Trey is going to be nice. We're seeing dollar store Trey right now, and he's still blowing our socks off. Oh man, so I can't wait. So overall, though, speaking more to the offense, I can't wait to see the real offense. I don't think the 49ers have seen the real offense. I don't think we've seen what it looks like with Trey Lance. And to note, Kyle started setting it up. Let's go, EMA. We see you. Hit those likes. We started to see Kyle ran about 2 or 3 zone read setups. Meaning you had ghost motion from the wide receiver. Trey hikes it, goes zone read to the motion wide receiver, goes zone read to the running back, and then threw it. And I'm like, those are the things. Those are the things to pay attention to. Those are the things that Kyle Shanahan has done all practice, but doesn't do it in the game, and you're seeing it. He's intentionally setting it up. He's intentionally putting it out there. Like, you guys haven't even seen this entire element of our offense. He didn't have Trey keep it because he was setting it up. He's setting it up. So he set up about 2 or 3 zone read plays last night where you're like, Kyle, you're not slick, man. You're not slick, Kyle. I see what you're doing, man. I see what you are doing. So it's just funny. It's funny because I think it's a matter of time. Of course, there's a lot of back and forth. Who's going to be starting? But, doesn't matter. Kyle knows. He knows what he's doing. This is a plan. What they're doing is orchestrated. They've sat probably in countless meetings after meetings discussing how they're going to do it and what they're going to do and why they're going to do it. And we're just got to wait. We just got to wait because we can apply as much logic as we want to it, but we have to understand they're working off a different set of standards. They're not working off straight football logic. They're not working off straight just evaluating football. There's a business behind this, and there's business moves that potentially could be made. So we just have to see. Booker says Jimmy will be the starter, but if Jimmy doesn't play like he's got a point to prove early and often, how long do we wait before we make the move? Do you give Jimmy the chance to play through a rough first quarter of the season? See, Booker, appreciate the comment, by the way. That's tough. Like, we're talking about, like, I know, Booker, you said Jimmy will be the starter emphatically. But you're also talking about, are we pulling him after the first quarter of play if he's playing poorly? If it comes down to that, why are we starting him? Like, if his leash is that short, that he has to get pulled in the first quarter of a regular season game because he's not playing well, that tells you everything you need to know about this competition or no competition. It's just really, really difficult situation because we're not seeing apples to apples on anything. Like what Jimmy has been doing is not the same as Trey. Trey's won solely with the twos. Like we're not seeing anything that's comparable. But the point of what you're saying, if Jimmy doesn't play like he's got a point to prove early and often, I mean, he should be playing like that already. But how long do we wait to make the move? Again, I think we got about a week. Before it gets really interesting. If we put our business hats on, our business caps, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think Jimmy Garoppolo his contract will be guaranteed, I believe, by week 1, the whole thing. So that has been like in the back of my head, is that the 49ers can still get out of his contract. As right now today, they could get out of Jimmy Garoppolo and I believe only have a $4 million cap hit. That's pretty crazy. So the fact that they could literally get out of Jimmy Garoppolo today and only have a $4 million cap hit, which would open up about $20 million in cap space, it's just something I'm not, you know the vibes. You know the vibes. I don't got to say it. So we got about a week. We got about a week before anything crazy. Like there's a lot of crazy stuff that could go down in the next week or so. Rosters are getting cut. Players are getting cut. Clearly, we have holes at certain positions. So we'll see. About a week of tinfoil hat season left. And we'll see what happens after that. So for the most part, pretty solid. I'm thinking we just do offense today. I might do defense tomorrow. I just might do offense today. We're already an hour 20 in. I think that's what I'm going to do. Spend a little bit more time on defense and questions for tomorrow. But for the offense, I think that's pretty good. I think we covered all our bases. We could talk about some of the wide receivers a little bit more. I think Richie James has been struggling a lot. He's struggling a lot. Richie James is struggling a lot. We've talked about it multiple times. He was the guy that should be like, he should be what Trent Sherfield's doing right now. That's what Richie James should be. Richie James looks like a shell of himself. Still dropping passes. He had a couple good plays. He had a good catch. He had a good return. But he still had a drop. He still had a pretty bad drop. So honestly, I don't know if Richie James makes the squad. I don't know if he does. Travis Benjamin took a step forward, I think, in the competition. I think Travis Benjamin took a step forward because he still has that long speed. He still has that long speed that I really don't think there's a faster wide receiver on our team right now than him. And so what he can do and what he can provide is, like, let's say Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter on this team. We don't need Travis Benjamin. If Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starter for 17 games, Travis Benjamin becomes a luxury at that point, because what Travis Benjamin is really good at is he's really good at stretching the field. He's really good at getting behind safeties. He's really good at getting deep. But Jimmy Garoppolo does not take deep shots enough that would warrant him unless you're using him as a pure returner / decoy. The difference is with Trey in the mix, Trey will throw it deep and will throw it to him if he beats the safeties 50, 60 yards downfield. So I think that could be part of the evaluation is who do they think is going to be throwing the football? I think that Travis Benjamin's skill sets matches Trey Lance's skill set a lot better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I feel like Debo and Ayuk fit Jimmy's skill set. I know Debo fits Jimmy's skill set a little bit better. But yeah, and I think Juwan Jennings is a lock. I think he's going to make the team. So it'll really, really be interesting. Yeah, I think I'm going to save defense for tomorrow. We'll do a defense episode tomorrow. Going over my notes real quick. Yeah, it's pretty good. Do you guys have any questions? Do you have any questions you want to ask? I'll open it up for a couple questions before we head out. Don Burrs keeping the chat feisty. What's going to happen to Don after week 1? That's the real question. Is he going to stick around? Because what happens when we beat Detroit and week 1's over? Is he still going to be in all our chats? I hope so. I hope you stick around, Don. Why would they cut Rosen if they're planning on offing Jimmy? So this is one of the things with Rosen. It's just Rosen wasn't a good football player. There wasn't any. There's no like sugarcoating it. What Rosen has is he has a good arm. He has a good release. The ball comes out of his hand really nice. He throws a nice ball. He might have thrown one of the better balls out of all the quarterbacks that we had on the team, but he can't do anything else. He can't read a defense. He can't command a huddle. He can't throw with timing. He can't throw with anticipation. He can't throw with accuracy. He's not a good quarterback. He's a bust. He's a complete bust. Sudfeld outperformed him night and day in training camp. So the biggest thing with Rosen is I don't think Rosen has anything to do with whatever. I don't like if they're trying to do something or make a move. I really don't think Rosen has a ton to do with it. Rosen just wasn't good. He's not on a team right now. He's literally still out there. So if the 49ers did make some dramatic move and they needed a quarterback who knows the system, Rosen is literally available. So they could literally go grab him. I know Sudfeld didn't look hot yesterday, but Rosen has not looked good at all. Consistently, at least Sudfeld looks good in practice. At least Sudfeld will throw one of the better balls all of every day. Like Rosen just wasn't good. He just was not good. All the time. That's the difference. Sudfeld might have had a down game yesterday, but he at least performed better in practice the majority of the time. Jason says, do what Steve Young said today on starting Lance if they are even and try to restructure Jimmy or cut him if you won't. So this was a huge talking point of mine when I first started going to camp, and I really just backed off of it because, again, no one was seeing what I was seeing. So, of course, everything that I was saying and seeing and reciting what I was seeing was being repurposed back at me as a form of hate because we have an interesting fan base in that regard. So whenever I was talking about how good Trey Lance was and all of those things, I was being called a Jimmy hater. So it got to a point where it's just like I'm not going to talk about who I think should start. I'm not going to talk about who is better. I'm just going to talk about what I see in the most objective form possible and just talk about it. Because this was the first day of camp I showed up. I was looking at them. I watched both the quarterbacks, and I was like, you know what? They both struggled. They both were up and down. They both made, Trey Lance showed in that practice he could make every throw, but he still showed that he was a rookie. Still missed with some timing, still missed with some velocity stuff. But I left that day and I was like, they looked even to me. And so, again, this isn't an apples to apples competition. First of all, half this fan base doesn't even think it's a competition. I'm sorry if that is one of you. I hope it's not. If you've been watching me or you've been watching us for some time now, we've been pretty consistent about what we think's going on. It's 100% a competition. It's been a competition since day one. So if you believe it's a competition, it's not an apples to apples competition, and it never will be, because one is a 21-year-old rookie. Like I said that day when they had the same kind of mediocre practice, but they were both mediocre, both inconsistent at the same level. I'm like, this isn't apples to apples. The guy who's the rookie, he's been at practice for 6 days in the NFL. 6 days. And he's on par with a 29-year-old veteran who makes over $20 million a year. That is the point in the context that a lot of people don't understand. You have a 21-year-old rookie with 6 days of NFL practice under his belt, working with backups and second stringers, performing at the same level as you. That is not apples to apples. Because if that is occurring, you start the rookie every time. Like every time. If you have two guys on the same consistent level who give you the same output, the same type of performance, the same type of inconsistencies, but guess what? One has a way higher ceiling and is young, you go with the rookie. So that's what Steve Young was saying. That's what he's saying. It's like they look even. At the very least, they look even. And if you're saying to yourself, well, they look even, that means Trey Lance is ahead. It's not apples to apples. If they look even, Trey Lance is ahead because Trey Lance has all the upside. Trey Lance is learning. Trey Lance is new. Trey Lance is fresh. This is Jimmy's, 5th or 6th training camp? It's not the same. It's not equal. So again, you saw it yesterday. It wasn't even equal. Trey just straight up outperformed Jimmy, in my opinion. Because again, you got to see a glimpse of it. You saw a glimpse of the legs. Again, the legs itself is going to completely change the offense. Just his legs. And we haven't seen that yet. So, okay, well, we know that element is there. That isn't being shown, and it doesn't exist, apparently. So you can't evaluate that. You can't evaluate Trey's running ability because they don't do it. Okay, we've seen it. We know. Whatever. You don't see it. So we don't take it into account. Pretend like they're both pocket quarterbacks. Trey's still playing better. And that's the problem. Is I've said this from the beginning. For Jimmy Garoppolo to come in and win this job, he has to play perfect. He has to play perfect because he's a veteran, because he makes millions and millions of dollars. You cannot be outperformed by a 21-year-old. You cannot. You can't do that when that 21-year-old, your head coach, your offensive coordinator, he traded 3 first-round picks to go get that guy. You can't play even with him. If I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, you have to literally blow away Jimmy Garoppolo by being efficient, not turning over the football, making correct reads, hitting timing, doing all the things that you're supposed to do. But when they're making the same mistakes and one has a clear upside where one is 30 and has no more upside. The only upside that Jimmy has at this point is playing consistent. It's such a weird dynamic this offseason, practice, all of it. It's just weird dynamic because of the narratives and messages we're being told and how it doesn't match the actual football. It doesn't match. What they are saying doesn't match what is actually occurring on the football field. Because again, I'm not a media guy. I'm not a media person. I'm a football guy. I'm a X's and O's evaluation technique football guy. I watch through football. I don't watch through narratives. So again, you strip away everything. You strip away it all. Even with Trey Lance being handcuffed. Even with Trey Lance being handcuffed, he's still better. So I don't know how they feel internally. I don't know how they feel inside the building. I know how we feel outside the building. I know all of I'm so ready to stop talking about this. I'm so ready. Again, Kyle Shanahan refused to name the starter because guess what? It's a competition. They're still competing. So again, if Kyle came out and said, well, Jimmy's going to be the week 1 starter, and then Trey Lance comes out against the Raiders, runs with the starters, and demolishes the Raiders in their starting defense, then Kyle's backtracking. Kyle's like, well, I said Jimmy's a starter, but, again, these guys are smoke and mirrors masters. It is what it is. So that's why I said there's a week left. You mentioned restructure. You mentioned cut. The other option is trade. That's why there's a week left for all of that. There's a week left of that tinfoil hat theory and discussion. There's still lots of room for that. Matt H. Sneak this, Matt. I see it. Brad, my man, he says, dude, the Niners' motto is a strong run game and lights out defense. Whether it's Lance or Jimmy, we proved we can make it to the Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback play. Has anything changed? And that's what I've talked about this a lot, Matt. And you're right on the money. I've talked about 2019 Jimmy Garoppolo. I talk about the level that he played at. I talk about where he was mentally coming off an ACL injury. I talk about how Kyle Shanahan completely put Jimmy Garoppolo in bubble wrap that entire year. Not only that, Kyle talked about it on the podcast. He literally talked about it specifically about how Kyle had never been in a situation where he had been able to rely on his defense and just let his defense win games. That literally came out of his mouth. He said Jimmy only had to help us in 4 games when our defense wasn't playing well. And he even listed them. He said Arizona. He said the Saints, Steelers, and Rams. The 4 comeback victories that Jimmy had because the defense wasn't playing well. So I know Jimmy was doing well from efficiency standpoint. He was still hitting a decent amount of passes, and Jimmy was doing his job in 2019 when they went 13-3 and went to the Super Bowl. But for a lot of that, Jimmy looked like a rookie. In 2019. He 100% looked like a rookie in 2019. And I believe Kyle Shanahan operated as if he was one. Because remember, Jimmy Garoppolo had never played a full 16-game season before 2019. On top of that, he tears his ACL in 2018 in the middle of the 3rd game against the Chiefs that he was playing. He still hadn't even played 16 total games up until that point over the course of his entire career. Again, Injury is more about mental than it is physical most of the time. So when Jimmy got hurt and it was his front leg that is exposed and that you throw off, like you plant off your back and you throw into your front, it changes everything of how you think, process. Am I going to get hit? Like the doubt creeps in, the lack of confidence creeps in. That's what we had on Jimmy. Jimmy was unconfident. He was dealing with the injury. He had never played a full 16, 17 game season. Jimmy was a rookie. And we went to the Super Bowl and almost won the Super Bowl. Trey Lance is literally at that same level. I think Trey Lance is, again, this isn't new. This isn't new. This isn't a new talking point. I've said this many times, for months even. Trey Lance right now is better than 2019 Jimmy Garoppolo. So the whole notion that you always hear of, oh, well, they can't start Trey because that means they're shutting the door on the Super Bowl window because a rookie has never led a team to the Super Bowl and won it. Well, look at Jimmy. It's like, does anyone not remember 2019? Does anyone not remember the context of 2019? Anyone? No? Oh, okay. Oh, but this year it's basically the same team. Oh, yeah, it's the 49ers. Good defense, good D-line, good linebackers, decent DBs. So good defense, right? Yeah. Okay. A rookie quarterback. Okay. A rookie quarterback who's efficient, by the way. Very efficient. Why not trade Trey? It's painful reading my comments. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it can be. Is he better than 2017 Garoppolo? Now there's the question. We haven't seen 2017 Jimmy Garoppolo even from Garoppolo. We've seen it in spurts. We've seen it in chunks. We've seen 2017 Garoppolo. We're like, oh, there he is. There's our guy. And then you're like, oh, dang. Went back. Reverted. Regressed. Or no, there he is. There's Jimmy. Oh, damn it. Pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, and is Lance better than 2017 Garoppolo? I feel like Garoppolo is playing at a very high level in 2017. So I actually would say no. Because Jimmy was on point in 2017. He just was. He really was. So it was nice. It was good. All right, you guys are still super deep in here. Shout out you guys. Let's see, it's 3:50. I didn't do defense today. I just spent too much time on the offense. So I think I'm going to do defense tomorrow. I'll get really deep into some of the defenders. The rookie defenders are balling. So this is the thing, is they were running a simplified version of the offense. Very simplified version. So I think it allowed everyone to move really fast. Allowed Jimmy to move quick through his reads and do certain things because it's very simple. But we know Kyle isn't simple. He's not simple. He's complex. And so I think as we saw the offense evolve, I think you saw Jimmy kind of struggle within it a little bit. Do we have fake Don Burr accounts in here? Don Burr is a legend. We'll throw it up. Don Burr's got the Don Bum in the chat. Don Burr's got a fake account apparently, or he's got his own person taking him on. It's funny. That's good stuff. These comments are wild. It's basically Don Burr in the comments for about an hour and 40 minutes. This is wild. Honestly, if you was as good looking as Jimmy, would you have the energy at night to study the playbook? If I was wanting to be the best quarterback in the world, then yeah, I would have that energy. Low key diss. Yeah, I talked about this at the beginning of the show. A lot of good stuff from Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore looks really good. He's definitely been the best rookie lineman we've had out of the two. But he's actually looking like a serviceable offensive lineman. So, is what it is. All right. I think that's it. I appreciate all you guys as always. Again, a little rusty. Been off for about a week out in Tahoe. I'm back now. Appreciate all you guys for stopping by. Like I said, I'm gonna do defense tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow. We'll do defense. We'll run through all those different levels and all that good stuff. Because there's a lot of good stuff happening on defense as well. Probably about this time tomorrow. I would say about 1 to 2 window about there tomorrow. So we'll be back to do defense, and of course, Sean's on Hawaii time, so he's way behind us. So yeah, probably we'll call it 1:30. Could be 1, likely 1:30. 1:30 is a safe time. Tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time as well. So we'll get into it a little bit more. There's obviously we're going to be diving into I'm going to watch the game again. I've already watched it, I think 2 times. But hopefully I can get my hands on the all 22, watch it again. Is HaHa making the team? I think it's too early to say. We'll see though. He could. I just think it's too early. I haven't seen enough. Trey, future looking bright if he learns to throw with touch. It's looking bright even if he doesn't learn how to throw with touch. We'll see. Niner Vance thinks HaHa should. If HaHa makes it, that means Maiden's not making it. That means who's we got Tavon Wilson. We got you guys forget Jaquiski Tartt's still here. He just hasn't played yet, but again, he takes up a roster spot. So if Tartt's back, if Tavon Wilson's back, if Ward's back, if Hufanga's there, I don't know how HaHa makes it. He might be a practice squad guy. We'll see. I don't know. So the Jay Hurd thing, again, tinfoil hat theory. I think they might just be kind of putting him on the shelf, understanding that he's been getting outperformed by Juwan Jennings, Trent Sherfield, Mohamed Sanu. Hurd is getting outperformed. Plus, he's not available. So what I kind of feel like is going to happen is they're going to cut him and then revert him to the practice squad. Which is why I don't think they're going to play him in preseason. If he plays against the Raiders, then I won't be necessarily right with that point. But I would like the option of having Hurd on the practice squad. I think that would be nice. I don't think another team would put him on the active roster unless they were just really hurting. But again, he hasn't been in a preseason game since 2019. So how is there anyone out there to evaluate him other than people who've been previously on the staff, like the Jets or something like that? So we'll see. So there's going to be – maybe I'll do this really quick. The 49ers are going to cut down 5. They're going to cut 5 players tomorrow, or by tomorrow. So they're at 85 right now, and they got to go to 80. So this is kind of what I think is going to happen. I think Mo Hurst and Kendricks probably going to IR. They're probably just going to treat him like he wasn't even here. I'll say that. So that means Mo Hurst goes to IR. I'll just say Michael Kendricks goes to IR. So that's 2 roster spots taken care of. So now you only have to cut 3. If we're cutting 3, I like Alexander Myers, though. He might be a cut candidate, especially with the concussion. I think Shalik Calhoun is a cut candidate. Darian Daniels is a cut candidate. Let's see who else. Jordan Willis is suspended for the first 6 weeks of the year, so I'm not sure he actually – I don't think he technically counts against the roster right now. I think Eddie Yarbrough, he could be a cut candidate. Let's see who else. I think Justin Hilliard's been playing nice. Not ready to cut him. Elijah Sullivan could be a cut candidate. Corbin Kufasi could be a cut candidate. I don't think he's been playing that well. So if they want to trim, but that's the thing. Kilamete went down, so they might need that depth now. Kai Nakua could be a cut candidate, even though he had a really nice game. Maybe they just cut ties on Sean Coleman. I don't think Sean Coleman is ever going to do anything for the 49ers. Just cut him and let him go. It's going to be interesting to see I think Jordan Matthews is a cut candidate. So there's a whole bunch of people. Whole bunch. Like I said, I think they only have to get down to like 2 or 3 if they put some guys on IR. So we'll see. Kai played well. Again, I don't think he's playing well enough to be a 53-man guy. He could be a practice squad guy. I think Hilliard's a practice squad guy too. Gutierrez is protected through the international program, so he doesn't count against the roster. So that's good. All right, we'll do defense tomorrow. I almost got into defense. Almost did. Not going to. I've been here for way too long. Again, appreciate all you guys listening and watching and commenting and all that good stuff. We'll be back tomorrow around 1:30 Pacific Standard Time to do defense and any current news that has happened from now until then. Excited to get into the defense portion of it. Started to touch on it, and I said, nope, not today. So we will do that tomorrow. Hopefully look forward to having you guys. Nope, not today, Sean. Almost. Not today. We'll do it tomorrow. Because you know me, if you guys just keep asking me questions, I'll just keep answering them, and I'll be here for 3 hours. So we can't do that. But I see you, Sean. I appreciate it, man. Niner Vance, I appreciate you. Stumbled on it. If you don't subscribe yet, please shoot us a subscribe, a like, all that good stuff. We'll see Don Burr tomorrow as well, of course, to obstruct our comments, all that good stuff. But we'll be back tomorrow again. Thank you guys, as always. Appreciate you.